All right, well, welcome to a special edition of the Sports Guys. We have a really special program for you guys tonight, and this is a guy that we have been fans of for a long time, Tommy Decarlo. How you doing, Tommy?
Thomas, I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing great. How are you, Robbie?
Oh, great. Doing great.
We are total fanboys tonight, Tommy, because I think it was about 8 years ago we saw you at the Lakeshore Club in Tega Cay. And Rob and I had been hearing about you guys for a couple of years, and we had been seeing some of your videos on YouTube, and we decided to finally go to the show there. Rob used to live in TK, actually, and we went there, and it was you and Tommy Jr. and the original band, and you guys just blew us away. We could not believe. I've always been a huge Boston fan. More Than a Feeling's always been my favorite song, and we left there just shaking our heads like, how did we miss these guys?
Well, that's great. That's a venue we haven't played in so long, but that was one of our favorite venues to play out there. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
We've seen you there a couple of times. A couple of years later, we saw you there again, and it was Halloween. And I think you guys were in Star Wars stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually, Rob went in a really funny costume that night, and he was out in the contest that they had there. But yeah, what a great venue.
Rob,
I was happy
what were you wearing, Rob?
Well, it was a little inappropriate. It was a little inappropriate.
You're not gonna believe it, Tommy. You're not gonna believe it.
All right, I'll tell you. I was wearing a thing that it looked like I was riding on the shoulders of a stripper.
Okay.
So my feet were down her legs, and it was a funny costume. It was a little inappropriate.
So that was you? No,
yeah.
joking.
That was him.
Yeah. That was me.
Well, what's funny is we sat at a table with all these really prim and proper folks that had come to see you and be serious.
Right.
and he was getting some looks, and they were like, "What are you exactly?" It was pretty funny.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
Hey,
really.
that's the time to do that kind of stuff, right? That's a good time, man.
It really is.
What was so funny is the first time I saw you, I hadn't heard a lot other than Tom had told me a little bit about you, but in the Charlotte area, you guys were a lot more known. I was sort of coming in a little bit excited, but I didn't really know what to expect. And I remember leaving, talking to my friend, the one who's the drummer, and I told him, I said, I think I just saw the best cover band I've ever seen in my life. Like I couldn't quite get my mind around what I had just seen. It was, the talent level was unbelievable compared to what I was kind of expecting.
Yeah, it was Boston, and then it was Styx. I mean, we love Styx, and you were singing.
It was like a whole genre of music that was just
incredible.
Crushed it. It was awesome.
Well, that was, those bands are some of our favorites, and so it was a lot of fun playing of course, the Boston stuff, but then playing the Styx, the Foreigner, the Journey. I mean, that music has stood the test of time. So
you even played Loverboy. You played.
Yeah, that's right.
Toto.
Yeah.
You played Toto.
Toto, yeah.
Yeah, it was such good stuff.
It was really fun to be in the audience. That's for sure.
Yeah, I miss doing those songs. It's been a long time since I've done those.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit.
We just did them in Valdez, so we did some of them.
Yeah, I heard a couple of them. I was there.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your background. You grew up in New York State. How did you come to music?
Well, I grew up in Utica, New York. I was actually born in nearby Rome, New York, which is about 30 minutes from Utica. And, music for me really began at about 12 years old when I heard the Boston debut album. That was a really big point in my life that, when I think back, when did my music really take off? It was pretty much at about 12 years old. And however, prior to that, I always enjoyed music. I'd sing in the backseat of my parents' station wagon while they were playing their their Bobby Vinton 8-track tapes and Engelbert Humperdinck back in the day. But I was just a big fan of music all the way around. But when I heard the Boston debut album, I became a really big fan, not only of the music, but particularly the voice of Brad Delp.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think he's the greatest singer ever, or who would you put above him potentially?
Well, when you're talking, the melodic classic rock, I think he's right in there with, I think there's Brad Delp, there's Lou Gramm, who is also from upstate New York. He's from Rochester, New York, actually. There's so many that you can, mention, but Brad for me was something about his voice I connected with more so than any other singer that I heard. Of course, I grew up, I loved, Triumph, Rick Emmett, I loved all that stuff. Journey, Steve Perry. But just something about Brad's voice. But it wasn't just Brad's voice, it was the music as well.
Yeah.
The combination of the two was, I think I've said in a previous interviews that Tom Scholz and Brad Delp were lightning in a bottle, those two. And I really connected with Brad's voice.
It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, I really love that stuff.
So when did you know you had some talent? Like, how old were you when you realized you could sing, you could play the piano, you could play some instruments?
Yeah, when did you learn to play piano?
Well, my earliest recollection is was a little kid. My grandparents, they had a little melody grand upright piano. It was a little suitcase job. It was very small. Of course, as a little kid, it felt like a big grand.
Yeah.
But they had that in their living room at their house. They lived in Sylvan Beach, New York. And I can remember doing this, the two fingers.
Yeah, yeah.
And I found a couple of chords that sounded cool. But, as the years went on, then they gave the piano to my parents, and they gave it to us. And then my brothers and we started messing around with it. But I went to a talent show, and I think I was in junior high school. And I went to a talent show at the high school, which I wasn't in high school yet. And I saw a guy playing an Elton John song. And his name is Rick Zuccaro. And if you ever look him up on YouTube, he's like one of the best piano players that I've ever seen. And him and his younger brother, who I played baseball with, they were really into piano and keyboards, and they were really great at it. So when I went to this talent show, as a junior high school student, I saw the older brother Rick playing. And then a year or two later, I went to the high school talent show when I was in high school, and his younger brother Ron was playing. And I remember going home and saying, I want to do that. And even though, here I'm almost 60, I've been playing keyboards and piano for years, I'm still not that good. I'm not as good as those two. But they really inspired me to want to go home and learn how to play. So I would spend hours and hours and hours at the piano just playing, trying to pick out songs that I heard on the radio. And that's really how I started to play. And as far as writing goes, I know we haven't gotten into songwriting yet, but I used to sit down and play notes and chords. They weren't to a song. I would just play things that I thought sounded good. Then one day, one of my friends was over the house, and he asked me, he says, because I was playing some cover songs, like Journey or something.
Yeah.
And then I would just get into playing some chords that I thought sounded cool. Never thought anything of it. And then he says, whose song is that? I'd say, it's nobody's song. I'm just playing some notes. And he goes, man, that sounds like it could be a song. I was around 16 at the time. That's when I started really getting into, I thought, well, it sounds like a song. Maybe I can write a song. So I kind of go back to about 16, 17 years old when I actually started to at least attempt to piece together an actual song. But, you know, that's kind of how it was early on for me. I loved playing piano. I loved singing along to the songs that I loved on the radio, like Boston Foreigner, Journey, Styx. And then I just started trying to play stuff on the piano. And it really just kind of developed, you know, from there. That's where it really started.
How did you get your voice so close to Brad Delp that Tom Scholz couldn't tell the difference when he was listening from the other room? That's amazing.
Well, you know, I'll tell you how that happened, at least how I think it happened. I'll use a baseball analogy. You like sports, right? This is kind of, we're into sports too.
Yeah.
Well, as a young kid, most young kids, you sometimes try to emulate your favorite ball player. Be it, you know, a pitcher in baseball, a hitter, football, basketball, whatever. And it was the same way for me with listening to Brad's voice. I loved it so much that when I was a young kid, I wanted to sing like that. So I tried. And then as the years went on, just like, you know, a young kid starting out with sports, he wants to try to learn how to swing the bat like Mickey Mantle or something, or Derek Jeter.
Mm-hmm.
You do it for so long, and then, you know, someday somebody kind of recognizes what you do, and they says, well, how do you swing the bat like Mickey Mantle? I don't know. I've been doing it since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's second nature at that point. So people will ask me, well, you sound so much like Brad. How do you do that? Well, I just sing now, and that's how it comes out. I don't try to sing like Brad. I did when I was a kid. But over the years, I think it just got to where that was something I was used to doing. And it just became second nature to whenever I would sing, I would kind of go into that voice mode. And it's nothing I'd think about consciously. I just do it. So how I developed that, again, I also think it's a gift. But you know, I can't really put my finger on why I sound like that. No, I think if you put me next to my voice right next to Brad's, you're definitely going to hear a difference. But I think when I sing the Boston music, I've always sang it just the way I heard it on the radio. And that was one of the great things later on in life for me when I got the opportunity with Boston, was I didn't sing Boston music like I wanted to sing it. I sang it like the record. Mm-hmm. I think that was, you know, I'm guessing it was probably pleasing to Tom's ears to hear somebody sing it the way that he wrote it.
Yeah. Right.
And the way that Brad sang it. So there wasn't like I needed to be coached how to sing that music, because I always sang it just like I heard it on the record.
That makes sense. So if I were to go back and talk to 14-year-old Tommy Decarlo and ask him, do you like baseball better or music better? What do you think he would say?
He'd say baseball.
Would he really?
No question. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you asked me if I would I trade a career in music for one afternoon with a Major League Baseball team to play on that field, I would probably pick the baseball over the music.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Huh. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Your passion really lies there. That's your top passion would be.
Well, it was early on. Unfortunately for me, there wasn't a whole lot that I could do like really, really well. I wasn't the greatest in school, but I was pretty good. I was a pretty good athlete, and I was a pretty good musician. Two of probably the toughest things to make a living doing, or at least, in my opinion.
Right, no doubt.
So when you don't have a whole lot else going on in your life, and those are the things that you feel that you're good at, that was all I really wanted to do, was those two things. Early on, I had my youth. So the sports was, I could go out and pick up a baseball or a football or a basketball and, play that whenever I wanted to. As far as singing, I never looked at it as anything I would do for a living. It was just kind of a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball to me was, I took it seriously. Music was, well, it's raining out. I can't go out and play baseball today. Okay, well, let me go down to our basement and play the piano a little bit. Try to teach myself a new song. Oh, the sun came out. I'm done with this. Let me go grab my baseball glove and go outside.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
So how did you make the transition from this amazing person who can cover music, cover Boston, cover all these great songs, to make the transition to songwriter? I mean, that's a huge leap for any musician.
Well, I had a lot of great bands to listen to growing up. That was, a big thing. I think I have what I think is a exceptional ear when it comes to music. I don't think I'm an exceptional songwriter, but I do believe I can write a song. And I never really had a roadmap when it came to writing songs, other than, listening to my favorite bands growing up. And I would try to write something that I thought maybe sounded, maybe not just like them, but structure-wise, an introduction, a chorus, or, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, an ending. Piecing something like that together was a lot of fun for me. It was like putting a puzzle together. And, as a young kid growing up, probably from 16 right up until now, I'm still trying to write that one song that is, could maybe get in a movie or something like that. That would be huge for me. But
are you pursuing kind of like your More Than a Feeling? You're pursuing your big viral hit.
I don't like to be negative. I'm not sure I'll ever write that More Than a Feeling, but when you look at bands, for instance, you look at you take a Boston. Boston has More Than a Feeling. You take a look at the band Styx. I think their More Than a Feeling was the song Babe.
Mm-hmm.
You take a Journey, and their More Than a Feeling was Don't Stop Believing.
Mm-hmm.
Although they have great other songs, each of them had one of those. I don't think I've written one of those yet. I think the closest that I've come to writing is a song I wrote called You Are the Fire. It's one of my favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's my second favorite song on that album.
Is it? What's your first?
My first is There She Goes.
There She Goes.
You know what? Those two are my favorites.
I see her standing there, but I don't know what to say. And then she smiled at me and took my breath away. If I had the courage, I would tell her, but I'm too afraid to let her know.
Yeah,
love
there
that
she
song.
goes. And rock and soul. I like rock and soul.
Really?
Actually,
That's
Rob
awesome.
has twin boys, and his girlfriend has a boy too, and they love rock and soul. The young
Yeah.
kids love rock and soul.
That's
They
cool.
request it in the car all the
All the
time.
time. Yeah, they're like, we want rock and soul.
That's fantastic.
So we're still
Yeah.
hitting Spotify for you.
Get you feeling right. And when you feel it coming, you know it's time to just let go. Woo! You know what I'm talking about? Give me some of that rock and roll music with a little bit of soul. I need some of that rock and roll music before I lose control. It feels so good when you're rocking away, moving to a groove that carries you away.
Well, then maybe those two are my more than feelings. Then maybe I just don't know it.
Yeah.
And then I have to say, I'm a romantic sap, and so when you write songs to your wife, like "Still in Love," I just love it. And the piano work in that is so fantastic.
Yeah, I remember writing that song. I remember sitting down and playing the melody to that piano part, and I had it for a couple of years before I ever did anything with it.
When I close my eyes, I think about a place where I first met you and saw your pretty face. I knew right then you were the one. In my life had just begun. Still in love after all these years. Still in love through the smiles and tears. Still with you and I'm still in love. Still in love and we're going strong. Still in love now for so long. After everything we've been through, I'm still in love with you.
But writing is a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things to do is write. I like to sing. I can sing. Crazy as it sounds, I don't consider myself a singer as much as I do a songwriter.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, now if I were to, when you have to do something like, okay, I got to pick up the mic and I have to go out and sing. I'm blessed. I'm certainly thankful to have a gift that I can do that. Believe it or not, it's not my favorite thing to do. I'm a little more excited when I've touched on an original song, and I can't wait to get into my home studio and start piecing it together.
Wow.
Now that's
so cool.
exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah, to me, that's exciting. That's I mean, whenever you sing, I happen to sing the music of a band that I love, being Boston, but it's a challenge. It's a lot of work to sing in the original key at, I'm a few months away from 60. It's not easy to do that. Now, from time to time, people will say, well, he doesn't do enough on stage. Well, I have to save a lot of energy to sing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So do you want me to do backflips and stage dives and sound like crap? Or do you want me to sound good and kind of just stay in one place and just focus on the song?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, Tom Scholz wasn't interested in that. He's interested in the music.
Right.
And that worked perfectly for me because I wasn't going to be a David Lee Roth and do all kinds of stuff on stage. It wasn't going to happen.
Now, are you
on acrobats? This is my acrobat right here.
Yeah.
It's your instrument.
Yeah.
I have been wondering one thing about Tom Scholz. How much singing does he do? Like, for instance, I'm trying to imagine him back in the day in his basement at MIT when he's writing all of the demos for the first album. Is he singing those tracks and then he goes out and gets Brad Delp, and Brad Delp takes it to another level, or how did that work?
Well, given the fact that I was never involved in the songwriting process with Tom, right. However, on the album Life, Love, and Hope that I sang 4 tracks on, mm-hmm. including the title track, Tom sent me those recordings with his voice on it. That's what I'm trying to envision that. Is that something that he did frequently? Well, that's how he did it with me. I'm not sure if he did that with Brad, but I would have to think so, because if he's the songwriter, mm-hmm. he knows the melody and how it's got to go. Now, Tom actually sang a lot of harmony parts on the Life, Love, and Hope album. Mm. And quite frankly, he saved me a lot of work because he did a lot of them. And I thought they sounded great. Mm-hmm. My voice and his voice worked great on the songs that I sang on. And he actually sang one by himself on that record. And I think, although Tom doesn't have a tenor voice, he still has a very good voice. Mm-hmm. And he's a magician in the studio. So yeah, I mean, it's brilliant to me that he could do that.
Are you as amazed as all of us rock fans are at what he did with that first album? Basically doing it in a basement with subpar equipment, doing it at night after his job, and just one of the true engineering miracles, really, in music.
There isn't a night that I've toured with Tom, or even a rehearsal for that matter, when I am not looking out at the audience and I don't take a minute to look immediately to my right, and there's Tom Scholz. And I often think right there during a show, we could be playing at the LA Forum in front of 15,000 people, which we have. And right there in that moment in time, I'll look over at him and I'll see the people, the fans. I'll see the vendors who are there to, sell what they got to sell, and the workers and the event staff. And I'll think, because he went down in his basement when he was, in his 20s and decided to write an album. Here we are 40 years later doing this. I just can't believe it. And I don't know if he can believe it.
And he fooled the record company, right? Like he told them that he had the full band, and he really didn't. So I think they couldn't believe that he actually did the whole thing himself. Crazy.
Yeah, yep, he did. Tom's he's quite a talent. And if you listen to the Boston music enough, you will probably find yourself finding new things here and there in songs that you've listened to 100 times. Say, man, I never knew that little part was in there, or a little piece of vocal work that was in there. Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, someone comes along like that. And to me, Tom is the bona fide rock star in the band Boston, without question.
Yeah. I think I've heard you say before on stage that you found it to be such a miracle that these two men came together with so much talent, almost unprecedented talent. The fact that they could be together. You said lightning in a bottle. I mean, that's pretty much right. I mean, it's unbelievable when you get two special people find each other and are able to do really amazing things.
Yeah, they were, again, the best 1-2 punch in rock and roll history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I talked to your son, Tommy Jr., about what it was like to record Lightning Strikes Twice. And he said it was fun, but it was really stressful. There it is.
Nice.
He said it was fun, but really stressful. He said you had deadlines. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you like the creation process, but if you're under a deadline, you're going to be feeling some pressure, right?
Yeah, writing that album, writing was fun, and it still is. But once you sign your name on that dotted line and that recording contract, now all of a sudden you feel a little bit of pressure on the backside.
Yeah.
Kind of like a quarterback, when he's starting to he feels the heat coming around the corner.
Yeah.
And so Frontiers, who signed us to 2 records, actually, 2 albums, it was a lot of fun to write, and I enjoyed it. But as soon as I signed the contract, then I felt the pressure of having to deliver. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 songs at that point when they signed us. And then I had to come up with 4 or 5 more. And for me, my writing process, at least in terms of creativity, is early in the morning. So I'll be in my recording studio probably 7 in the morning to about maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Every day I was doing that. But come 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, the later it got in the day, the less creative I got. I got lazier. In the morning, I had fresh ideas, so I'd lay them down. In the afternoon, it just wasn't there for me. So, while most people are up having coffee and having breakfast, which my wife was many times, she would call me and say, "Hey, you're going to have some lunch?" And I'd be like, well, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. No, I don't want lunch. And then she'd say it's 2:30. Like, wow. Yeah, let's go to lunch. But it was a lot of fun doing those records with Frontiers. They were great, a great label to work with. And they were excited about the music. And we had a lot of fun doing those.
Was that cool to have Gary Pill on that album too? And
absolutely.
And your son,
how did you end up getting him to come help and all that?
Well, fortunately, we never had to be in the same. Well, I don't say fortunately, but fortunately, with technology, you don't have to be in the same room anymore with people to collaborate. So Gary and I, the couple of songs that we did together that he worked on the album, I'd shoot him a couple of tracks, and he'd let me know if he had time to do anything with them. And thankfully he did. And I think I sang on one of his songs actually a couple of years ago.
Did you? Oh, cool.
Yeah, he released an album with someone, and I'm not sure if the album or the song made the album cut, but it was something that he wanted me to try, so he sent it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing of working with Gary is, and working with anybody, that that I've met through music is, I never charge. I always ask Gary, how much can I pay you for playing guitar on this song? And he'd never charge me, because I think he knew a couple of years later, if he asked me to sing, I was going to do it for nothing.
Mm.
So it's not like that with all session musicians, but it was nice to have a A-list fantastic guitarist on a song, and I didn't have to pay him. He was happy to do it.
Right. That's great.
Hear the thunder roll, feel it in your soul. Get ready for some rock and roll. The clouds are moving in, storm's about to begin. So let the music take control. Lightning strikes twice. Come on, let's do it again. Lightning strikes twice. Ooh, yeah. Rock you all night, over and over again. Let the music take control.
And I don't know
That's
if you know
awesome.
this or not, but Gary also was a big part of Night Ranger's first album,
Is that right?
which was
I knew he worked with Sammy Hagar.
oh yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, it's funny because I played a Christmas show. I did Alice Cooper's Christmas show in Phoenix last year.
I
Oh,
saw
wow.
the pictures.
Yeah. Cool.
And I did that with, of course, Alice, I think Quiet Riot, Nancy Wilson, and Sammy. And we had a great house band called Six Wire. Great bunch of guys. I do a lot of private shows with them. They're based out of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see Sammy before the show. We all had our own time slots for sound check. And even though we were all backstage, we had our own dressing room, so we didn't really run into anybody right away. But after I did my set, I sang like 4 or 5 Boston songs. And again, he used to work with Gary Peel. Gary was in his band.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, Gary's in the video, I Can't Drive 55.
I know he is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
And so anyway, I get off stage, and I happen to see Sammy. Well, the first person that came up to me was Nancy Wilson. And she says, "You were fantastic." And I thought, were you kidding me? I'm like, wow, that was so cool.
You're like, your heart. You got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Right. And then Sammy comes out of his dressing room, and he comes up. It was as if I've known him for years. And he comes up and he's smiling, and he goes, "Man," he goes, "I heard the Boston music." He goes, "What is Peel out there?" Gary Peel, he's thinking, is that Gary Peel out there playing? And it was kind of funny. And it was really an honor for me to play a show like that with those guys.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's a memorable one right there.
What was Alice Cooper like as a person?
Alice, I did 2 private shows with Alice. And I remember the first show I did with him, he was the closing act. And now I say this humbly because it's kind of cool. I think it's really funny to think a kid from upstate New York and Utica,
Yeah.
could be on stage with rock and roll icons such as them. And I went up, and it was another private show. I think it was down in Florida. and I did my 4 or 5 Boston songs, and Alice was just waiting off stage for me to come off stage, and he was next. And I remember coming off the stage, and he's standing there at the staircase, and it was so cool because as soon as I came off, he was the first one to greet me. He kind of gives me a handshake and a hug, and he goes, "I got to go on after that."
Oh,
and
wow.
I says, "Man, it was just so funny to hear that." And then he went out there and he just killed it. And, it just meant a lot to me to hear that from somebody
that's a nice encouragement.
Well, you have a lot of respect in the industry, Tommy. You really do. So it comes through from those people.
Well, I'm certainly thankful. And, that opportunity goes back to Tom. And one thing I don't think Tom doesn't get enough credit for, although I give him all the credit in the world for it, there are so many other opportunities that came into my life because of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Tom will probably say, "Oh, Tommy, I gave you a chance, but then you went on and you did some great things yourself." Yeah, but I wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have, you gave me A, but B, C, and D, and E wouldn't have happened if A never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very, Tom changed my life. He might not even want to hear me say that, but Tom has. He changed my life, and he put me in a great position to continue on music and musically, even after Boston.
At night, he dreamt of becoming a rock star, listening to the band that's been his favorite since he was 12.
A Boston song would come on and I'd get fired up and I'd start singing it.
Then all it took was a MySpace page posted by his teenage daughter of Tommy singing Boston songs on a karaoke machine.
I wanted to share that with other fans, with other Boston fans.
Meanwhile, up in Boston, members of the real band were struggling to continue playing, coping with the recent suicide of their lead singer, Brad Delp. That's when they heard Tommy's MySpace page.
In order to believe it, we had to plug the computer into some big speakers so that I could listen to the background music to see if it was the band. And then I realized it wasn't the band, it was a karaoke track and somebody was singing to it, so it wasn't Brad.
So the band decided to give Tommy a shot as their new lead singer.
I was like, wow. I mean, I remember calling my wife and kids into the bedroom and I said, "Look at this email." And I just couldn't believe it.
So
do you think that if you had not met Tom Scholz, do you think you would have started a local band, maybe started some version of Decarlo just by yourself, or that wouldn't have happened?
probably not.
Tommy, I've seen some really interesting interviews of you over the years. And one of the ones that stands out to me is when you talk about how you wrote that song for Brad and everything. And then you put it on MySpace because your daughter said, "Let me show you how to do this." Is that right? Do I have that right?
Right.
And when you were asked, "Hey, will you come practice with us?" or something like that, and you were asked to sing 2 songs.
Oh, well, yes, I know. Yes, I did send them that song, but I don't think it was considered because it was the show that they were putting together for Brad was a pretty busy weekend.
Yeah.
And it was unexpected. So there wasn't a lot of planning to pull the band in and have them learn a new song from some guy from North Carolina.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got a lot of compliments from the band regarding that song, and the fans really loved it. And that's it's a special one for me because that was my way of paying tribute to my favorite singer, which was Brad Delp.
I'm sure that meant a lot to them to see how their fans were responding, and then they asked you to come sing 2 of their songs. Is that right? And then you started to practice with them, and Michael Sweet was late or something like that.
Well, we had they invited me to sing at the tribute show. So I went and met them up in Boston. Tom flew my whole family up there for that.
Wow.
I rehearsed. I remember singing, I think Smoking and Party, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were the 2 songs. And then later on that day, Michael Sweet did come in and I met Michael. I mean, when I left that rehearsal session, when I left rehearsals and then the next day we did the show, or later that night we did the show, when I went home, I didn't think anything else was going to happen. But I was really happy that I had that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the next day, like 2 days later, Tom called me and asked me if I would be interested in going on tour. And of course, I said yes. And then it was weird going back to rehearsals about 8-9 months later, because for the whole winter, the rest of that summer, which I think the tribute show was in August. I think it was in August. So the rest of that summer until spring of the next year, even though I knew I was going to go on tour with Boston, I couldn't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So my coworkers at Home Depot, when they'd say, "Hey, what do you got going on this weekend?" I'd say, "I'm just going to sit around and watch TV, do some yard work." I was actually getting on a plane and flying up to Boston to go rehearse for a tour.
How do you hold that
That's
back?
insane.
How do you hold that back?
That's insane.
That's crazy.
I was able to hold that back for fear that if I let the cat out of the bag, they would uninvite me. So, so when I went back to rehearsals for the first time, it was kind of weird being back to the rehearsal studio where they flew me up with my family and I met them all for the first time. But it was, an experience I could never. It's almost hard to put into words to share how I felt. I'll give you a good, I just thought of this the other day. I was watching, the movie, it's with Will Smith, and he gets a job on Wall Street. Anyway, he's in this movie where the whole movie he is just one thing after another doesn't go his way, and then he happens to see a Wall Street trader. He says, "How do you, I think the guy was driving this ridiculously beautiful car." And he says, "How is it that you can do that? How do you own a car like that?" And he goes, "Well, I trade on Wall Street." So he gave it a shot. Somehow he was able to get a foot in the door. And over a period of time, he became, this Wall Street trader. But then he was at his last day. It was like some kind of apprenticeship or something. And they asked him, it was his last day. And they asked him if he wanted to he thought that was it. He was done. And he was happy just to have that opportunity. But then they brought him on as a full-time employee. And when they did, I remember him in that part of the movie where he walked out of that office and he went out to the street and he was just walking and he was incredibly emotional and he couldn't believe that he finally had, got a great opportunity. And if I can think of the movie, I'll send you.
Is it Pursuit of Happiness?
Thank you. Yes, Pursuit of Happiness. And if you watch the end of that movie, when you guys, when we're done here, just look up the clip where.
Actually, you know what I'll do, Tommy? I'll put it in the comments down below in this when we post this.
Yeah. So if anybody ever wondered, what did you feel like after the tribute show when Tom Scholz said to you, "We'll be in touch"? Mm-hmm. I knew at that moment that my life was going to change drastically and for the better.
Yeah.
And, so when Will Smith had his last day on the job, or so he thought, and then they told him, "Come back tomorrow. We want you here full time. You're going to be you're going to be part of our team." He was really emotional. So when I saw the movie, I said, that's how I felt.
Wow, cool. That's
so
cool.
Look at that clip.
I will.
And you'll see him walking down a set of stairs out into this crowd of people. And he's holding his hands up over his head and he just can't believe it. That's how I felt when I left the tribute show and Tom told me he'd be in touch. And
so you had a gut feeling he was really going to do it.
Well, I've had this feeling, and this is an honest feeling. I don't think I really ever shared with anybody, but when he called to invite me to the tribute show, I just had a feeling that, you got to have some confidence in yourself. Dan Marino's a good example of that. He's got more confidence than any quarterback. I mean, that guy was awesome.
Tommy, Rob is a Dolphins fan, so he knows.
Oh, well, there you go.
Keep talking.
Yeah. Well, so if you've seen interviews of Dan Marino, one of the things was he didn't lack confidence, and but anyway, before the tribute show, before I even went, I knew that if I sang well, I knew that Tom would be pleased. I didn't know if he'd ever call me back, but I knew if he decided to tour again and I sang well at the tribute show, I knew that he would call. I knew he would.
That's great.
So when I got that phone call, like for me going up to sing with Boston, it wasn't so much, yes, it was my 15 minutes of fame or whatever it was, but I knew that I was singing for, not just for a night, I knew I was singing for my future. I just felt it.
I'm getting too close again.
So it was important for me to do well, although when I listened back to the tape of that show, which I have, I sounded okay. I feel like I'm a better singer at 60 than I was at 42.
You've taken your game up to the next level, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to feel that I did, yeah. But I really felt that, you know, if he ever heard my voice, he wouldn't be disappointed, and I don't think he was.
Do you feel like you were a lot like Will Smith there? You were kind of an apprentice, and you were really good, but you were also kind of learning at a pretty big clip?
Yeah, I do. I think I was just, you know, in the right place at the right time. But I also feel like I had a, it's the biggest thing is opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If you can sing or if you can play baseball or whatever it is that you do well, it's not so much, you can be great at something. I've been in recording studios with session musicians that are ridiculous, that are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are they'll never get that opportunity because so very few do. But every once in a while you kind of luck out. And I feel very lucky to, you know, to have found the band Boston as a young kid. And little did I know that all the years that I was singing along to those records and listening to them on the radio, that I was somewhat grooming myself for something to happen later on in life. How could I have known that? I didn't, but because I love the music, I stuck with it, and it just, you know. So when I got the opportunity, they didn't have to teach me how to sing their music.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I heard More Than a Feeling when I was about 10. I think I'm about 2 years younger than you are, Tommy. And it changed me the exact same way it did with you, except it didn't make me a musician, but it made me a rock and roll fan. That song.
Sure.
It's always been my favorite song of all time, by far.
Yep. And it gets a rise out of the crowd whenever, you know, anytime that I've been on tour with Boston and we play that song. I don't think the fans realize that we are just as excited to hear it.
Yeah.
And as much as they are.
Yeah. I saw you in Valdez just a couple weeks ago, and it brought the house down, that song. So, yeah. Is there anything about your Home Depot life you miss? The simplicity of it or anything?
Is any of the team still there that you worked with?
You know, no. Most of them are, I think there might be one or two, but no, unfortunately not. I do miss some of my coworkers. I keep in touch with maybe one or two, but I don't really miss it for the simple fact that I was, you know, I appreciate, you know, the fact that so many people get up every day and go to work like I did for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do, but I just do something different.
Right.
Do something I enjoy.
You found your passion and how to make a career out of it. And you know, that's special when you can connect those two things.
But do you think your interaction with the customers every single day in that Home Depot prepared you to deal with the fans? Like, did it make you better at retail music?
No, but I'll tell you what did, and I think you'll probably appreciate this. You know what helped me the most as a musician later on in life was holding a microphone and getting up on stage to sing in front of a bunch of people. Although different, wasn't a whole lot different than being handed the ball in a baseball game and getting up on the mound and pitching. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a great athlete. I would say that I was probably a top 5, 3 to 5 on any team I was ever on.
Mm-hmm.
And so being handed the ball in a football game, being handed the ball to go out and pitch, to know that people were going to be looking at you, depending on you, counting on you, that got me more. I drew off of those times more than I did anything I've ever done at a job.
That's great.
How did the idea come about for Unlikely Rockstar?
Well, you mean the audiobook?
The audiobook, yes.
There was an article written. There's an article written. Someone, I can't remember when, but it said Tommy Decarlo is the first. I can't remember what it said. It was something about the first social media, rock
Success
star.
story.
Yeah, something of the social media generation or something. And in the article, it said how unlikely it was that. So I kind of piggybacked off that a little bit.
That's cool. I like that.
That's great. That's a great audiobook. I listened to it.
Was there anything about the audiobook that comes to mind that you were surprised to hear? That you can remember?
I liked all the little details from your life. That's what I really enjoy. The little things you remember, from high school. The first time you thought about putting the song together for Brad.
Right.
I just liked all those little details. That's what I really enjoyed.
Yeah, sometimes those are better than, the actual, the big.
Yeah, the meat of it was good, but I liked all the stuff around it.
Good. I'm glad you listened to that. It was it was a lot of fun to record. It was somewhat emotional for me at times.
Did you shed a tear?
Plenty. Yeah, plenty. Yeah. It was a tough thing about that book was it was I didn't have the greatest relationship with my father, but he was still my father. And he wasn't my biological father, but he was dad from the time I was like 5 or 6 years old. And, I think he shaped me in more ways than he knows for the better. Sometimes the tough love is it's the hardest to look back on, but it's, you get later on in life, you realize, some of those hard lessons that you learned during those hard times were, shaped you into being a better person.
Do you think you became a different father to your kids because of the way he was towards you, or do you think you passed on a lot of his tough love?
Yeah, I think both. I think both. I've always been a hands-on dad. Not like with my wife, for instance. It's funny because like when my kids are sick, she reminds me more of my father than myself. Anytime either one of our two kids were sick, I was the type that went in the bedroom. Let me check on you. Let me bring you this, bring you that. Whereas my wife would be like, all right, well, if you're not feeling well, then go get into bed.
Get over it. Get up.
Take an aspirin. And that's kind of how my dad was. But, he was a cool guy, though. I do miss him whenever he was, if he knew everybody. Because of his job, him and his partner had a barber shop in upstate New York for years. That's what he did. My father was a barber. So anytime you needed something or anything, I remember if you were working on a snowmobile and you need a part, he knows the guy because he's one of his customers. I mean, but I don't think I could count the times that my father bailed me out financially or, he might have been a little hard on me at times, but I think I gave him a good many reasons to be. But I got a lot of, again, the book doesn't necessarily say it, but I surely loved my father. I miss him. He was a great guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
That's great.
All right, let's go take a look at some of this great stuff I put together here. All right, this is Tommy Decarlo joins the Sports Guyz. Again, Tommy, we can't thank you enough for doing us the honor to come on the show. And it's just a lot of fun to have a guy who's kind of the local guy who made good, who's lived the American dream, lived what everybody wants to do. I picked some of my most favorite photos of you here and your son.
Sure. Those are great.
So this is a slide I put together just from different interviews you've done, a picture of you at Home Depot, that unlikely Rockstar audiobook we just talked about, the epic picture of you with the tambourine that Rob has behind him right now. Any of these kind of spark some memories for you?
Well, definitely the two with Tom. I mean, how many times can you say you're sitting next to a bona fide rock star?
And she said, no, this is not Brad. And I didn't realize till I put it up on some big speakers and listened to the background music that it was in fact not Boston. And it was some sort of a karaoke track. And then I realized this wasn't Brad, but it sounded just exactly like him. And I know every nuance of Brad's voice, worked with him for 35 years. So I was shocked.
So do you yourself pick up the phone? Obviously you heard the voice on your end, literally and figuratively. Wow, this is my new lead singer. How'd you get in touch with Tommy?
Well, I wanted to be a little cautious about it, but yes, I did. The moment I heard that, start to think, all right, maybe there is another future for Boston. And we proceeded cautiously but quickly and invited him to Boston to make an appearance with us on stage at a tribute show last summer for Brad.
Tommy, you get a call. Did you think it was a prank call? What? Talk to me the feeling, because all you know is you put this anonymous, that you responded to somebody anonymously, send it out, you send it out. What did you hear on the other end of the phone, or how do you get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, Tom had called me and introduced himself, thanked me for putting the music up on MySpace, and we talked a little about the tribute show that they had planned.
What do you mean? I want to stop for a second. He says it's Tom Scholz from Boston. What's going through your head?
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. It was it's almost hard to put into words, really. I just could not believe it. It was I was shocked and I was excited. It was just an amazing day, believe me.
And what did it feel like the first time you were on stage playing with Boston?
Oh, that was great. It's almost a blur, but you know, going out and singing for the audience. And I was nervous, you know, I really was. But, you know, I got a few lines out. I seen some smiles on some of the fans' faces, and I felt that they were feeling it, and which made me feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah. I love the face you have there in the middle, too. It's funny.
Hey, is the Lord left there? Is that you and Tom? Is that on Donnie Deutsch?
Yeah, it was.
I saw that interview a long time ago.
Yeah, I saw it too.
You know what I remember about that show? Now here's the funny thing. It's not quite a blooper, but here's one of the funny things that I remember about that. Now, when I look at that interview of Tom and I on the Donnie Deutsch show, the interview isn't what I remember. What I remember is driving through New York City and being with the driver for the show, and I was in some town car or something really nice. And we were stuck in traffic for so long, and man, I had to pee so bad. And I just could not get to a restroom quick enough.
Oh my God.
And I remember we were on this one stretch of city, you know, in some block. And I remember like 2 blocks up, I could see like a Starbucks. And I says, I'm gonna get out right here. I'm going to run up to that Starbucks and use the bathroom. And by the time you get through all this traffic, I should be coming out. And sure enough, that's what I did. So when I look at that picture, all I can think about is that day when I got out of that car and I ran all the way out here. I'm, you know,
That's
I just
hilarious.
got done doing an interview with Tom Scholz and Donnie Deutsch, and I'm jumping out of a town car to run 2 blocks up to use the restroom.
Oh, that's funny.
That's so funny that you're a rock star, sort of emerged as a rock star, but you're still having everyday problems like we are, you know.
Yeah, like everybody. Yeah.
Well, you know, again with that shirt, the Boston shirt that I'm wearing to the lower left,
Yeah.
my wife and kids and I, we were in a Goodwill here in Charlotte, and we had just moved into our house. But we had a nice patio out back, but we didn't have any patio furniture. So we went to the Goodwill down on South Boulevard, I believe it was.
Yep.
And just before we walked, we didn't find any furniture, but I says, wonder if there's any shirts. And if you listen to my audiobook, I talk about that. I found that Boston shirt in a Goodwill because I didn't have any Boston shirts. I couldn't afford to buy a Boston shirt at a concert.
Right.
When I went. So I remember that shirt was like $12, and I snatched that shirt up, and you know, sure enough, when I went to do the interview, I said, I'm going to wear that Boston
That's
shirt.
hilarious. That's hilarious. You know what's funny, Tommy? I have that exact same shirt, and I was trying to find it for tonight's podcast with you.
Really?
I couldn't find it.
That's
I haven't
awesome.
seen it-
That's
haven't seen it in a
awesome.
couple of years. Yeah. Any other ones of these kind of bring some memories back? I want to know where he had gone on vacation there in that middle picture, because he had a lot of tan in that one.
Which one? Oh, oh gosh. Well, you know, Tom's a pilot, so he can pretty much fly all over the place. So, you know, he probably went somewhere really nice when the weather was really cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, those were two fantastic interviews. I really enjoyed those. Really good stuff.
I still can't believe it. I can't believe it's been that long ago already.
So this is your musical journey kind of after Boston. This is your Decarlo journey, your Tommy Decarlo albums on the left and right. Of course, there's a picture there with you and Peyton and Tommy Jr. and Christian. We know Christian. We go see Modern Alibi sometimes. And,
yeah, he's a great drummer, man.
He's amazing.
Excellent drummer. Yeah.
And
I remember I had a conversation with him one time. I asked him how he got into music and what age was appropriate, because I have twin boys, and at the time I think they were about 5 or 6, and I didn't want to get them into music too early where they couldn't really function and then they'd give up on it, or too late to where you could plant a seed and let it grow a little bit. So I was trying to find that sweet spot because I really want them to dive into music. And I think he said he was around 9 years old when he got his first drum set, something like that, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So they're right at that age. I've started introducing them in music camps, and so they're starting to get a little bit of that.
Sure, that's fantastic.
So when did you know Tommy Jr. had some talent? Like, what age was he when you really knew that, wow, this kid's going to be pretty good?
Well, I bought him my wife and I bought him a guitar for Christmas. And this was after my opportunity with Boston, I think. And, you know, we just got him whatever the cheapest guitar was at the time, because we didn't know if he was going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
So after we bought him the guitar, you know, maybe 6 months, 8 months down the road, you know, there was noise coming out of his bedroom. It wasn't music. It was like just noise.
Yeah.
And then one day it did not sound like noise anymore. And I remember walking down and I says, man, that's pretty good. And he goes, well, I'm working on this and that and the other thing. And he stuck with it. So I think for the next Christmas, I bought him a nicer guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's worth doing the investment then, you know what?
Yeah, and he really sounded great at that point. He started to, you know, and I told him, I says, if you can learn how to play, you know, some of these Boston songs, I said, we might be able to do something with that. And that's, Tom, that's when I really started thinking about starting a band.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's kind of how that all started.
That's interesting.
Tommy's he's without question the backbone of Decarlo.
Mhm.
He's, I mean, I'm thankful that I can go out and sing the music,
Mhm.
but Decarlo wouldn't be on the map at all without Tommy Jr.
Wow, that's great.
He does
Well,
more
Yeah.
than anybody.
He's not replaceable.
Yeah,
So
he
when-
does a lot. He's very, he's very tech savvy, and
Yeah.
he's a sound engineer now. He's great. He does, he puts the shows together when we play Decarlo shows, and all I got to do is show up and sing.
So I think we
you-
we saw you guys in 2017 the first time. So that was 7 years ago. But how much further beyond that were you guys already playing? Like when was your first Decarlo show? I guess
I think it was in 2012.
12.
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I have in my notes.
Yeah, it's 2012.
Gotcha.
And I have a picture of Tommy and I playing our first Decarlo show in Fort Mill, South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
in a parking lot. And we're the only two there, basically. I kid you not. I have that picture. We got invited. I think somebody paid us $150 to go sing at some event that was happening in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did.
And there was nobody there.
Very few people.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it was for a little while. We've had shows where every now and again somebody would come up to me and say, there's like 30 people over there. Do they have any idea that you sing for Boston? And I'm like, I don't know.
What was my favorite show, Tommy, of yours? We traveled up to see you guys at Beach Mountain one summer. And I think it was for July 4th that weekend.
Yeah, it was July 3rd. I remember it was July 3rd.
It was outdoors at Beach Mountain on an outdoor stage, and it was a pretty big group of people there. They all had their fold-out chairs. It was right next to a little brewery. And you guys were just on fire that day. It was just so good. It was 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember
we had
Beach
a lot of
Mountain?
good shows.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good Decarlo shows. I had so much fun.
Yeah,
doing
man, we miss those. Man.
I do
We miss
too.
it. We
I do
miss it.
too. Yeah.
We'd see you guys at Beach. We also saw you at another place in Beach, a pretty cool bar. I don't remember what it's called, and then we'd see you guys kind of all over the place.
We saw you in North Myrtle Beach one time.
Yeah.
All over. Yeah, it was great.
You know what happened? I'll tell you, it's funny. Most people don't know this, but because a lot of the questions for us are, why did you guys stop playing around locally? And
Right.
why don't you play anymore? And there's a really simple answer for that. When we got connected with our manager, who, by the way, is also the manager for Dennis DeYoung. He's been Dennis DeYoung's manager for 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He has a lot of, amazing connections, and he does such an amazing job booking us. But really, in a nutshell, it comes down to, Tommy, I can't book you and your band to play a casino in Michigan where we're actually playing in a couple of days.
Right.
If they know that they can just walk into your local Hickory Tavern and see you for free.
I see.
Ah, I got you.
And believe it or not, in this industry, that word will get around.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could have a buyer that will say, well, we'd like to bring them out to this particular event, but the price is, here's the price that you want us to buy the show at. But I see on their calendar, they're playing Joe's Bar and Grill there in Charlotte for free.
Right. Right.
We just had to stop.
That's why when I saw you guys playing in Valdez, I had to go because I hadn't seen you in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I was dying for a DeCarlo show. And
Our thing is we'll buy tickets. We just want to see you in Charlotte or Raleigh.
Right. Well, that's something that we are working on to bring our show back here to Charlotte. But speaking of Dennis DeYoung, I look at the picture here, and we got 3 of Dennis DeYoung's band members in our
Yeah.
band. We
Yeah, I
have
thought that was cool.
August Zadra, who's
Yep.
his lead guitarist and also lead vocalist. And behind my son is Mike Morales on drums, and Mike is also the drummer for Dennis's band.
That's cool.
Of course, you see
Very
my
cool.
son to August right under the
Right.
name Tommy. How appropriate.
Yep.
And to the left of August is Walter Eno.
Mhm.
Walter has been a keyboardist and guitarist also for the band Survivor.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought there was some Survivor element to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and our music director, who just texted me today because we're going over our show for this coming weekend, he is the keyboardist and music director for Avril Lavigne.
Okay. Have you ever
Those are the benefits of getting a real manager involved.
sung any Survivor songs before?
I believe I did years and years ago, like at a karaoke or something.
I love Survivor. They're great.
Yeah, that was great band. So we have a lot of great players, and we're really thankful for the opportunities and the people we get to play with. I mean, we've opened for 38 Special, REO Speedwagon.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Man, those are good bands right there.
Great bands. The second time I saw you play, Tommy, you played a song that I love very much from Night Ranger, and it's called Sing Me Away.
Yeah, I love that song.
God, I love that song. And the second time I saw you sang that, I was just blown away.
I was out with Boston on one tour, and Night Ranger was opening for us. And like I say, Gary Peel used to work with Night Ranger.
Right.
And did some studio work with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the first time that I ever met the band.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm standing backstage, I'm standing with Gary, and Jack Blades comes walking out.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary says, "Hey, Jack, this is Tommy, our singer. And hey, Tommy, nice to meet you and everything, And I said, "Yeah, I love your stuff." I said, "Man, I love Sing Me Away." He goes, "You want to sing it tonight?" I'm like,
he said that?
Yeah,
wow.
I wanted to so bad, but I was so afraid to get up and do. I mean, I had enough on my.
You should have done it. You should have done it. Night Ranger is amazing.
I had enough on my plate with the Boston music.
Yeah.
Plus, I didn't know if it was appropriate for me to do that without running it by Tom. But
man, that night you sang it, I was like, it sounded just like Night Ranger. It was
that's great. Thank you. I love that song. Yeah. Kelly Keegan sings that. Great song.
And you know who Jack Blades is married to, Tommy?
Oh,
mom's roommate in college sister.
Oh, roommate in college sister. Okay, pretty cool.
That's fantastic. We weren't even touring with them one year, and I ran into Kelly Keegan in Tokyo.
Oh wow! Okay.
A hotel. I was like, "What the heck are you doing here?"
Oh. So this slide is touring stories, Tommy. So I just saw you guys at this Valdez show. It was fantastic. But do you have any kind of like one or two really great stories for us, either on Boston tours or Decarlo tours? Just like little stories, things you ran into, funny things that happened. Maybe your mic went out, or I don't know, any cool stories that you got?
Yeah, I do have one. This was really funny. We were playing I was out with Boston, and we were playing the oh gosh, it was in Los Angeles, the Greek Theater. And anytime we went out to the West Coast was kind of a big deal because you get a lot of stars that would come out to see these shows. So we were playing the Greek Theater, and our drummer comes in, Jeff Neal, and he says, hey, he says, Adam Sandler, Kevin James, and David Spade are out in the hallway.
Oh, wow.
Wow, okay. So I was busy prepping. I didn't get to go out there and say hello, but my son did. My son went out and said hello, and him and David Spade hung out and got a picture and all that stuff.
That's cool.
So anyway, I didn't know this at the time. I knew they were out there, but I didn't know Tommy had met them. So during the show, there's a couple of instrumental parts where I don't have to be on stage. So I got my cordless microphone in my hand, and I walk off stage for a minute while they're doing this instrumental. And Tommy comes up to me. I'm on the side of the stage, and he's telling me about how he just met David Spade. And we're having this conversation, and I'm like, really, man, that's awesome. And we're talking for about maybe 30 to 40 seconds. And I have my earpiece in so I can hear the music still. And I'm holding my mic, which is hot. And our whole conversation was going out.
Oh my God. To the whole stadium.
I remember him and I were talking. I'm like, why am I hearing? What am I hearing in my ears? And it was us talking.
Oh, that's funny.
A couple of people on stage were like, what the hell? What is that noise? And it was us talking about meeting David Spade, and it was on my.
Wow.
So that is funny.
That's one of my.
Did you ever have a night where you were particularly off and you didn't know how to pull yourself out of it? Like, I'm sure all musicians must have that. Or like a night where you're really on and you know you're just like on fire that night, you know, one way.
I don't think there's one show that any musician who's true to themselves would tell you that probably they have more nights that they're off than they're on. At least that's how I feel.
Really? Huh.
It's nice that nobody knows that, but I mean, I'm awful hard on myself. So there are more nights that I think I'm off than I'm on, but we had a show in Denver, Colorado. I had a really bad head cold. We were playing the Red Rocks. And I had a head and chest cold. I don't know how I got through sound check.
Wow.
And then about 4 songs left in the show, and my voice completely went out.
Wow. Huh.
So around 3:30 in the morning, I was at a vocal doctor having them scope my throat after the show. And come to find out, my vocal cords were fine. I just had a head and chest cold, and I was really congested. And Red Rocks was probably sold out, and I wish I could crawl under one of the Red Rocks that were there, but
I know. So who sang the last 4 songs?
Nobody.
Oh, wow.
And I went up to the microphone and I just mouthed the words, even though I wasn't singing. I didn't know what else to do. It was my first tour. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
We didn't have no contingency plan in place for something like that.
Good Lord. I'm proud of you, Tommy. You handled it well. That's all you can do.
Well, what was really funny is when I read some of the reviews, or my wife told me about it the next day, people were saying, man, that show was awesome.
Yeah.
He was right on it, man. They picked a great guy. I'm thinking, man, I lost my voice for like 4 songs. But then Tom came up to me because I was so bummed out in the dressing room. And he came up to me afterwards and he says, Tommy, he goes, this happened to Brad. He goes, and we had to go out and tell him Brad couldn't sing. Do you want us just to play the music? And they were like, yeah, just play the music.
Wow.
So, it feels good to know that it happens to other people.
Yeah. Especially, one of the best.
But I will tell you that is the only time that I missed singing 3 or 4 songs in a show. I've never missed a Boston show for any vocal reason ever, other than that particular night.
What do you do in between shows to take care of it? You drink a lot of water. You don't talk much. You get a lot of sleep. Like, what do you do to try to?
Yeah, there's a lot of stories of, I know Henry from Blue Monday around Charlotte area talks about it a lot. People walk up to him and they know that he's not talking. Do you do things like that? You go silent?
Totally. That's the key. Hey, who's a singer for Def Leppard?
Joe Elliott.
Joe Elliott. I was watching an interview about 2 years ago, and they asked Joe, they says, how do you do that every night? He had 3 words. He says, I shut up. And that is believe it or not, that's a key.
Mm-hmm.
I will not sing or I will not talk from the minute I walk off that stage until I go back out on stage the next night.
That's amazing.
Because there are nights where there's 3 or 4, you're playing 3 or 4 shows. On average, you're doing 4 shows a week.
Wow.
The most I ever did, I believe, with Boston was 9 shows in 12 days.
That's incredible.
And it's a huge load on your voice. But, you know, you have to learn to not talk. Talking is one of the worst things.
You mentioned Steve Perry, Tommy, and they were talking about him in those prime years. There were times he was singing 5 times a week for like 4 straight years. That's how much they were on tour. I just cannot imagine the way he sings.
Well, you know, he told a story once, Steve Perry did, where people thought he was kind of stuck up because he wouldn't go out and do meet and greets and stuff after the show. And he says, I can't. He says, because what'll happen is I'll end up talking for 2 hours.
Right.
And you're happy, but the people I got to go sing for tomorrow are not going to be happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be disciplined.
That's right. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Wait a minute before you go. I just wanna know your name. I've been in it way too long, and I don't wanna play the game. I can see it in your eyes. You've been waiting patiently. You really took me by surprise. I wanna take you home with me, because I think I fell in love with you, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I hope you feel the same way too. I think I fell in love with you.
All right, so here I want you to tell us, Tommy, what was your favorite song to write and what was your favorite song to perform? I got a little bit of mix of songs on here from both of your albums. I even have your new one, Living Without You, which we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that one. But what's still your favorite song in terms of singing and the one that you wrote? Is it You Are the Fire? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I believe You Are the Fire. I mean, my sentimental favorite would be Still in Love, because I wrote that for my wife.
Right. I love
But
that song.
There She Goes and You Are the Fire, because I just like them and I listen to them. And people probably say, well, why do you listen to your own music? Well,
because it's really
This is
good.
good.
You are the fire, I am the flame. You fuel my desire, I do the same. Looking in your eyes, girl, I like what I see. Such eyes of beauty, looking back at me. I wanna feel your heartbeat right next to mine. So close together, they beat in time. 'Cause baby, you are the fire, I am the flame.
We listen to it all the time.
Well, it's fun to listen to when you know you did something right, but it's also, you know, you learn from listening to it, what you might do differently on the next song, what might you know, you change, or what you might want to try to repeat in terms of the style.
Right.
But yeah.
I was thinking, Tommy, I've got a convertible. It's my second car. I drive it only on weekends, and I've got a 6 CD changer in it, which is really rare these days. And I've got all my favorite bands in there. I've got U2, I've got Metallica, I've got Van Halen Greatest Hits. The last CD is Lightning Strikes Twice, and I listen to it all the time. And so you're in my top 6 bands of all time. So
Oh, that's very sweet, Tom. Thanks, man. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
a lot of good tunes.
Tell us about this new song, Living Without You. I will say, Tommy, it's a really good song. I listened to it this morning. And is it part of a larger effort by you guys to create a third album, or what's the push here, I guess?
Well, you know, believe it or not, we got after we released it, Frontiers reached back out to us and said, "How many more of those you got?"
Because this is a really good song. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
but some of the best stuff comes from that place, right, Tommy? I mean, to be honest.
Yeah, it does.
I gave it everything I had, but I ain't bitter, I ain't mad. You told me that you loved me, but that was never true. Now there's only one thing left to do. Time to move on, I'm on my way. No looking back on yesterday. It took some time, but now I see. Living without you in my life is what I need.
What was your response to Frontier when they said you got some more of that?
I said, "Well, we'll work on it." You know.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna work on a few more.
Well, so we're going to talk about your love of sports, Tommy. And the first one is the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. So what are your thoughts about the season they're having? How long you've been a Bills fan? Are you one of those guys who take your shirt off in minus 20 degrees?
And jump through tables?
No.
Dig your seat out of the snow?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, from when I was in high school, my very first sports hero was John Elway.
Okay.
Even though I grew up in upstate New York, John Elway and the Denver Broncos were my favorite team.
So not Jim Kelly?
No.
Okay.
But, you know, being from upstate New York and being, you know, just a couple hours outside of Buffalo, of course, I was a fan too of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
But when Elway retired, I was such a hardcore fan. When he retired, I kind of retired, as I still followed the team and I still loved the team, but I began to open up, you know, my options to other players and teams that I always enjoyed watching. Whenever my team would either, you know, lose or fall off the playoff, in the playoffs, they wouldn't continue. They'd lose, and then I'd pick up another team that I kind of liked.
Yeah.
But I was always a fan of quarterbacks. I loved throwing. I loved playing quarterback. I didn't play in high school. I wasn't a quarterback in high school, although I probably could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a great quarterback, so I didn't need to be. But
Josh, and plus, you like baseball better, right? I mean, baseball is your sport.
I don't know. It's kind of a tough call.
Okay.
I think in today's game, probably baseball, because I think I'd get killed if I played football. I don't think I could make it. But
plus Juan Soto's contract kind of draws attention to that sport.
I know. Well, Josh is a great quarterback. I love his I love the way he throws. He's come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little erratic his first year or two, but has a great arm.
They've really worked with him, and now he's starting to eliminate the mistakes, and that's been a huge deal for him.
And I'm really hoping that, especially when they got when Diggs left.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, well, he's having to watch from the sideline now because of an injury, and I don't make light of that. I think that's sad, but I it's stuff like that makes me want to see the Bills do even, to do even better. When
they have all these young kids that are so good. They got James Cook, and they got Shakir, and they got Ian Coleman.
Yeah, Shakir lit it up the other night, didn't he? He was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big Bills. I definitely like the Bills. I do like Jim Kelly. I loved watching those guys go to 4 Super Bowls. That was huge.
That was fun. I will say my Redskins beat them one of the times. So we grew
up. Yeah, there you go.
Redskins
Well, the Redskins beat Denver too.
Yeah, and beat Denver too. Yep.
You know, it's funny. I have a guy in my gym that I go to here. His name is Eric Moulds.
Okay.
Eric played for the Bills, and another great. If you look up Eric Moulds' highlights, he was really something.
I bet.
But there's another connection to the Bills.
How far do you think this team can go this year?
Well, they got to get past Kansas City, and I got to tell you, I am a Bills fan. And I love the Bills. I probably follow them and care about them more than I do the Broncos, even though I've been a Bronco fan my whole life. But I don't think I'm going to be sold on Josh until he can get past Mahomes.
No, he beat him this year already. So,
well, he's got to beat him when it counts. To me,
You're right. Absolutely.
And sometimes winning that game early on in the season, I sometimes feel the team that lost earlier in the season is the one that'll come back and say, yeah, you got me early, but you ain't going to get me now.
That's true. So, very true.
I'm not saying that will happen. I just think Kansas City has been the luckiest team on the face of the planet.
It is incredible.
I've never seen anything like it.
Every week they bonk it off the thing and it goes through.
Yeah.
They'll block a extra point or something.
Yeah, but you know what's funny though? I mean, with Kansas City, I mean, if you leave those guys with any more than 30 seconds or a minute on the clock, and all they need is a field goal or something,
Mahomes just takes him down the field and gets it done. I mean, every time. The guy's unbelievable.
I mean, to me, if I'm an offensive coordinator of any other team or an owner, I'd be going to my offensive coordinator and saying, whatever that team is doing, we're going to do the same thing, because whatever they're doing, and it doesn't seem like they're doing anything crazy. It just seems so simple.
I really think, Tommy, they've got a shot to go to the Super Bowl this year. I just have a feeling about it.
Oh, Kansas City?
No, Buffalo.
Buffalo? Yeah.
I think they've got a really good shot.
I hope so. I mean, again, I'm, coming out of the AFC,
it's going to be tough. Yeah.
I kind of think, though, with Kansas City, I think they've been lucky, like we just said.
Yeah.
But I think their luck is going to run out when they're not going to get a second chance.
I think so, too.
I think it's like lightning has struck 9 times, and it can't strike 15, because that's another day.
I just think they're going to get in the playoffs and they're going to have a problem, and they're not, and the luck is going to run out. I definitely do not want to see them three-peat. And I'm just, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm sick of them.
I bet.
So
let's talk about your next team that you love. That's the Yankees, Mr. Aaron Judge. How are they going to do without Juan Soto?
Well, that was the most disappointing World Series to me. It was so bad, especially the 5th inning of that 5th game.
Yeah. I was so excited for that series. I thought it was going to go 7. I thought it was going to be just, slug it out 5-4.
Yeah, there's stars everywhere.
Not for nothing, but I mean, to me, it just, and I'm a fan. I can go back to when Elway played against the 49ers, and you can't even remember an offensive series that they had in that game. It was so bad. But with Aaron Judge, I kind of feel like he just fell off the face of the earth in that series.
What's funny is he did nothing and Ohtani did nothing. Like both of those stars did nothing on either team. And
Yeah.
there's other guys who did well. So, but do you think they can replace
Ohtani's
the bat?
defense? He hurt himself going into second base, and he was never the same, really.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
You think they can replace that bat that Soto's going to take over to the Mets? Or
He was tough, man. I mean, he was the spark on that team that I was, especially during that World Series. I mean, I think he did his job.
can you imagine baseball players being paid $750 million?
I'll tell you, the one who stepped up there for me watching it was Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
He was a beast.
Yeah, he was. He's got a stick too, man. The dude can hit.
I saw the Yankees did this morning sign the best pitcher in the American League from Cleveland. So that was a huge get for them. So they lost a big bat, but they got a big pitcher. So
I saw an article that talked about how losing Soto actually was a blessing for the Yankees. And there was a series of reasons why, and it had to do with allowing the money to go to several other places that are actually going to get more bang for the buck. But it hurts when you lose
they just went and got the ace. They just went and got the guy who's going to be their number one pitcher from Cleveland. So
yeah,
absolutely. So we have another athlete here to talk about, Mr. Tommy Decarlo and the Pittsburgh baseball team, the Pirates.
That's right.
So tell us about that. I saw that you tried out for them twice.
I did.
And what happened there, and how close were you, do you think?
My Legion baseball coach, we had our head coach, on our team, we had our assistant coach for my Legion baseball team. His father was a scout for the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
So they were having a camp, the tryout for the Pirates on our Legion baseball field. And this was the first time that I was able to get an invite, but I called my coach. I wasn't invited by the Pirates, but I called my coach and I says, any chance you can get me on that field, try out? He says, give me an hour, I'll call you back. So he called our assistant coach and they called me back and he says, yeah, he says, go on there. He goes, get there tomorrow by this time, this, that, and everything. So that's how I initially got the invite. So I went to the camp. And the only thing I took away from that camp was how ridiculously talented a professional baseball player.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went to the tryout. And when you go to these tryouts, you are not, especially when you're having batting practice, you're not having batting practice against, an old guy who's just throwing you pitches to hit. It's not like, just a fun BP session.
Right.
So you're hitting against the people who are the pitchers who are trying to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 3 plate appearances. I'm a right-handed batter. I went 3 for 3 with 3. I barely got a piece of it up the middle hits. Nothing that was anything significant.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did. Each time I was on base, I stole second base.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And I had the second of all the kids. I think there was 170 something kids there. And I had the second fastest 60-yard dash time in the camp.
Good Lord.
Wow.
Tommy.
What position were you trying out for? Or did they just have you like infield or outfield?
Left field.
Left field. Okay.
Yeah. And then
because you were a pitcher too, right?
Yeah, I pitched too. And then the second year that I went was the last time that I tried out. That was actually an open Pirate camp. And I went with a couple of friends from high school. And by that time, I was a year out of baseball.
Oh, wow.
So when you're just a walk-on like that,
Yeah.
if you're not, I keep going back to Mickey Mantle because he was such a great player. If you're not Mickey Mantle on that day, and you got to fill out a scouting card.
Right.
A lot of kids will fill out the scouting card, and you can go see them where they're going to be. They go to this college, they go to that college. Well, Tommy Decarlo, where's your scouting card? Well, here it is. It's got my name and phone number. I don't play anywhere. I'm not in college. There's nowhere for me to play. There's nowhere for them to come see me play.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not if you don't do something amazing on that day, and one thing I remember about that Pirate camp is I always prided myself on having a good arm. I mean, mostly everything I threw was heat. I throw hard. If I threw a curve, it was a hard curve. If I threw a slider, it was a hard slider. I rarely threw anything off speed. I did pretty well as a pitcher, but a lot of it was just throwing heat.
Right.
So at this tryout, I remember, I had a pretty good tryout, but again, I wasn't. I had been off for a year because my Legion year was over, but I just couldn't believe the amount of talent. I was playing catch with this guy from Arizona, and we were playing long toss. Once we got stretched out and warmed up, we're playing long toss. And I'm literally having to crow hop to get this ball to him on a rope. And he is just as smooth as could be off his back foot, just with so much ridiculous movement on a ball. And he's not even warmed up yet. And I'm like, yeah, this probably ain't going to happen.
Oh my God.
I'm probably not going to make, this, I think this passed me by. But one thing I do have at home, which is really cool, I have it somewhere here in the house, is I have a newspaper clipping from Legion baseball where I almost hit for the cycle. I have a single, double, and a triple, and we won the game. And it was against a kid who played for the Atlanta Braves. His name is Mark Lemke. He was
I know Lemke. Yeah. I became a huge fan of the Braves when he had that run with them. Yeah.
And I remember anytime that we played their Legion baseball team, it was big because there were Brave scouts there watching him play.
I bet.
So everybody would kind of try to turn it up a notch.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I remember that article, and it shows that Mark Lemke hit like a home run, but it shows me as hitting a single, double, and a triple.
Yeah, that's awesome. You were close.
That was kind of fun, but
It's interesting, Tommy. Rob has introduced his twins to about every sport they can play, and their favorite sport is baseball. They love it.
Well, one of them's basketball, one of them's baseball.
Yeah.
They're both really, really tall, so basketball is real easy for them.
Yeah.
Well, sports is a lot of fun. Believe it or not, I'm only 5'11", but I literally dunked a basketball one time.
Oh my gosh.
I tried so hard all the time. All I did was want to dunk a basketball. And one day I put it together. We were on an outdoor court somewhere, and I threw it down, and my buddy says, "Man, you got it." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Man, I'm gonna do it again." And I was never able to. I always came close, but I was never able to dunk another one. So I miss sports. It's funny because now I can look up at a rim in a net on a 10-foot hoop, and I can barely touch the net, let alone touch the rim.
I'll bet. So this is our last slide of the night, Tommy. We want to get you on the record, just like we do. Rob and I go on the record all the time, and we look back and we're embarrassed by our picks. But love to know who you think is going to win the national title in college football.
Ooh, that's
if
tough.
If you have a rooting interest, there's a lot of good teams this year.
Well, believe it or not, I'm a Syracuse fan, so I can't pick them. However, I'm close to Clemson. They look pretty good, but Notre Dame looked pretty darn good the other day too.
They did.
And
And
of
you know
course,
who the quarterback is for Syracuse?
I don't.
Kyle McCord, and he played for Ohio State last year. And I know Ohio State right now is wishing they had Kyle McCord from Syracuse because their guy's not that great this year.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the older I get, but no, I'm going to go with, my heart's telling me Clemson because I'm so close, but I think Notre Dame would be could also be a potential candidate, but it's going to be tough.
Okay. Notre Dame or Clemson?
Good
I like
picks.
that. I like that.
Yeah.
What about NFL? Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Oh gosh, I'd love it to be the Bills, but I think Baltimore is tough.
I think it's going to be the Bills and Lions in the Super Bowl. I really do.
I love the way the Lions have been playing. I like Jared Goff, but I don't know. I think there's definitely they have a chance, but they remind me a little bit of the Vikings, where they have these amazing seasons.
Mm-hmm.
They get into those playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the Vikings. I don't know.
Dan Campbell goes for 4th and 1s at the wrong time, and then I know.
That put them in a spot last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that. I was like, okay, well, you're going to do it. Everyone knows you're going to do it. Well, maybe this one time you don't.
The players love it. The players love it because he's kind of like a player's coach, and they love for him to go for it. They want him to go for it every time, but sometimes he should hold himself back.
I'm old school, so I'm rarely going for it on 4th down. I'm doing field position, take the field goal, whatever.
Yeah.
Trust your defense.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see the Bills, of course, but I think Denver might do a little something in the playoffs. It depends if they can get in, but
you got to like Bo Nix if you're still a Denver fan. Bo Nix has been playing really well for a rookie.
Yeah, he has.
Tommy, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, and most importantly, thank you for liking our music and taking an interest to talk with me, and also for speaking with my son. I mean, he loves this stuff as much as I do, if not more. So
we had the best conversation last night. It was so much fun, and thank you so much for your time. It's really an honor for you to come on our
we
show.
know how much you preserve your voice, and such an honor for us to have you for this long, and how valuable it is to you. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate that. I wish you both happy holidays with your families, and
You too.
Blessings to all of you.
You too. You have a great night. Thanks for joining the Sports Guys.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye,
Take care.
guys.
Take care.